Okay,
Oh,
Daily
dear.
Energy Markets Podcast, Monday, October the 10th. Oil prices falling, would you believe, in Asia this morning after OPEC makes its big announcement last week. Let's welcome Peter McGuire, CEO of XM Australia. Peter, your thoughts on that? This market is going to crash regardless of what OPEC Plus does.
Well, Sean, I probably go along with Omar to a fair bit of horsepower behind it. Yeah, I think it's got the potential to probably take 105 out, and I think it's going to be fairly quick to get there, maybe a month or so, maybe a fraction longer. We've just got to wait and see. But there's a lot of uncertainty. We haven't even dialed in any geopolitical issues at the moment. That US dollar is 113. You got Asia's been fairly heavily sold off today as far as equities. And I just want to see how China rallies over the next week or two, or if it does. And if it doesn't, then I think we're in for a little bit of a rout. We've got inflation coming out for the read this week with US, and it's going to be showtime. So, yeah, I think there's onward and upward for the energy sector.
Peter, we did see that on Friday, obviously on the equity side, the attempts we've seen on the equities to rally in the post-summer period, got a fair severe cold shower on Friday. Your thoughts on the weighting, the sort of robust central bank policy now betting in higher for longer, as Larry Summers says. How big a weighting is that on all markets?
Well, Sean, you're looking at the NASDAQ down nearly 4%, as you saw, and S&P nearly 3%. So, yeah, and that was continued with big sell-off in Hong Kong today and Australia well down. So that momentum is going to, I think, continue. I probably agree with Omar. I think there's a lot happening in around about 4 weeks and 1 day, which is the midterms. So they maybe try to keep things with an even keel up until that point, but I think it's going to be hard to keep it managed after then. We just got to wait and see as far as that inflation read. I think everything comes back to that. There's so much fear in the market. And talking about Larry Summers, I just saw just a brief talk, and I'm sure everyone's seen it, but all of our viewers that haven't, Larry's words where he made a mistake cancelling the Keystone pipeline. They made a mistake slowing down all kinds of permitting activity, and they made a mistake being hostile as a country for natural gas. Now, that was Larry Summers' words, not Peter McGuire's.
Peter, just to pick up on that, I mean, all of that may be true, but it strikes me that the real Achilles heel here to the oil markets, at least, is China rather than America or Europe. And we're coming up to a very big meeting. Obviously, the Communist Party meets next week, and there's a certain expectation that, finally, once that's out of the way, China will be back to the races, and that could be a very significant push to the demand side. Your thoughts on that sort of China Achilles heel to the commodity markets and the outlook beyond the Communist Party Congress?
Well, Sean, everything's cheap compared to oil. If you're looking at all the base metals, they're ridiculously cheap. Grains are a different matter. There's some of those that are all points of the compass. But if you're looking at base metals to start with and what it costs as far as energy, coal and iron ore, then it's very, very good for China at the moment as far as cheap. They've got the US dollar to contend with. But the other side of it is, where are they with that property sector? Is it starting to unravel? I listen to so many different voices and views and analysts, but I think eventually one day it's got to unravel, and it may be unraveling far quicker than what we can estimate. And that's the real Achilles heel of China.
And the world, perhaps, if indeed that was to unravel like we saw in the US in 08, 09.
But
Peter,
not right now.
Your thoughts on that? I mean, ultimately, Omar is signaling there that this is a market with no clear sentiment direction after so long of having one. The one sentiment, the one kind of North Star, like we had at the beginning of COVID, we have now, and that's the strong dollar. It's the one kind of clear line of sight, if you like, and to a certain extent it's holding, and to a certain extent it's holding longer, or I'm not sure, I need to check the date on that, but it feels like it's holding longer than it did at the beginning of COVID, where the flight to safety gave the dollar a very big boost. Your thoughts, what topples over the dollar, or does anything in the foreseeable horizon?
Well, Sean, it's the best of a bad bunch, and the bad bunch are very, very ugly. So you've nearly got a, 146 as far as yen. We understand what happened to the pound in the last 2 weeks to today. Have a look what's happening. We're nearly at 96 for a euro. So I think that from a 113 standpoint for a US dollar index, everyone's saying there's 116 going to be the line in the sand over the next week or two. And I think it's got the momentum. Once that inflation number comes out and everyone goes, wow, they're going to hit 75 basis points or 100 basis points for Fed Chair Powell in November. If that's a bad number, then I think it's off to the races. And he's told us the storyline, and that is ratcheting rates aggressively. So we've just got to see how they manage that inflation story, Sean, because I think that's the animal that's the dangerous animal in the room.
And dollar, Peter, from your view, keeps moving with that until such time as rates plateau?
Well, I think so, Sean, but we've just got to get to when they manage the inflation story, and if the energy sector continues to ramp up over the next month or so, then yeah, let's get through the next month and we'll get an appreciation of where we are. It's very hard to forecast at the moment. We're asked that all day as far as news media, and boy, oh boy, you can be wrong by $10 in a day.
Peter, the point taken by Omar there, and it's only, as you say in previous comments, the next month will reveal. We are we're coming to mid-October. Winter is coming. We got the Chinese meeting next week. We have the US election a few weeks later. The clarity of the direction of travel seems to be emerging, and from the point of view of how bad winter will be for everybody, right? Not just the Europeans, because Asia has to pay the same LNG gas prices as well, with less money and less dollars. Your thoughts on where the direction of travel comes from, that to set that sort of clarity forward?
Well, building on Omar's point, this is the issue that you've got, because once things start to tank, and I think they will tank sometime after the election, then that's going to cause much concern. And it's going to cause concern that the safest haven, as Richard said, is that friendly US dollar. So that's where everyone's going to be focused. Equities, I think, will really come under pressure. Certainly the other currencies, they're ugly, and they'll only get uglier. And the only market to play at that point in time, and that's why it'll go trend higher, will be that US dollar. So that's where I think everyone's focused from a trade perspective, Sean. They're looking at some of those key determinants and realizing the game they're playing is long dollar.
What about the Chinese yuan? Because it is also under some pressure. Where does the new Chinese government post October 16th go with the defending of the yuan, managing the yuan?
Yeah, I want to see how. I think we've got to get through the next week and a half to determine where we are on that, because there's too many moving parts that only they know. If you think through a lot of analysts say, do you believe the numbers coming out of China? I want to see where China is in the next 2 weeks and what's released to the market, and then we'll get a better understanding of where we see the yuan, because I think it could be a rocky road for those guys as well.
Peter, just to quickly follow up on that, is there any, obviously granular, well, usually when the US president chooses a vice president, like, Trump picked Pence because Pence is close with the religious right, and gave Trump cover across that sort of market, etc. There's a certain extent that who Xi brings in to the Politburo will give some indication of the direction of travel on economics. Your thoughts on that? Will you be looking for that? Will it be indicative, or is everybody the same color?
Well, I think in a lot of ways there will be some rumblings, and everyone's got a personality, and there'll be someone that Z picks. I mean, you always want someone that, in case from a getting hit by a bus standpoint, you want to be a key person. You want someone that's going to fill the breach that you are capable of, or they're capable of doing that for you. So yeah, I'm just again working through that, seeing how it all folds, and I'm not expecting any real surprises.
Thank you very much, Richard Radoglia, sitting in jolly California, Peter McGuire sitting in jolly Sydney, and Omar Najia sitting in rave Dubai. We'll get rave above jolly. Thanks, Omar. Have a great week, everybody. Catch up with you every morning,
Thank you,
10:30.
guys.
Cheers,
Enjoyed
Sean.
it.
See you,
Bye-bye.
mate.
Hey, guys.
Enjoyed it. Enjoyed